What is going on with the Cubs right now? That and more next.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, alongside Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. Best way to support the show is by listening every day on your preferred audio platform and by pressing like and subscribe on YouTube. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into a discussion with you and all things Cubs. Today's Friday episode is presented by FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. Welcome back. Welcome in to Locked On Cubs. Today's episode, we discuss what is happening right now with the Cubs for this offseason and beyond, including the outlook for President Jed Hoyer. Plus, after our regular episode, we're going to stick around exclusively right here on YouTube, if you're with us live, to hang out and take comments and questions from you all. Sam, ready for a fun night? And what is on your mind with the Cubs right now?
Couple of things before I get into that. Please, guys, save your questions for after. You can comment as we go, but we're going to go about 10, 15 minutes here, and then we're going to come all the way to you. So it'll be your show. We'll be answering your questions. Also, I want to wish everybody a happy Hanukkah out there. If you're celebrating night one, candles are lit. Enjoy yourself. I usually don't exchange gifts too much on this holiday, but my mom said she got me a nice gift. I'm excited to see what that's going to be this weekend. And how are things right now in terms of Cubs land or in terms of, everything? Because it's the same answer, not great. So why don't we get into it?
Yeah, I think that the pause button on the whole sport has proved to be problematic in a couple of different ways. First of all, just from an entertainment perspective, the whole week was a bore. In what is supposed to be a very productive week for you, year in and year out. Of course, last off season, there was some questions during the winter meetings, but it got resolved. And I know Swanson was the Saturday after the winter meetings, about 9 or 10 days after. But during the meetings, we had Bellinger, we had Tyone, we had rumors, we had rumblings. I mean, we barely had a rumor and a rumbling. There was Tyler Glasnow information, but it wasn't much. So
it's been the same information with Glasnow for 3 weeks. You think they're trading for Sandy Koufax? Enough. How much negotiations do you need about one guy?
And then there's more teams in the mix now. So anyway, for our Thursday show, Sam, we talked about how the current Cubs roster is at 79 wins. Mm-hmm. How they got 83 last year. They should have won 90. They changed managers. They have the best in-game manager in the sport now, Craig Counsell. That accounts for something. They have this core of Horner, Happ, Suzuki, and Swanson, Morel, and others. But my brain keeps going to the hypothetical, and it wants to know answers. It wants to know information. So that's what I'm really struggling with right now. I am not out here to blame or criticize any planning right now, especially with big names still out there. But the fact is that there may be just a little bit, is at least some confusion right now, as much as there is impatience.
Well, everybody in the comments, take a breath, relax, whatever. And then the other half of everybody is fire Hoyer, and it's always somewhere in the middle. First of all, you have the right to do what you want to do as a fan, especially us two that talk about this every single day. For our show, we were supposed to talk about some moves this week. None happened. So a lot easier said than done to be relaxed. Yeah. I'll repeat what I've repeated all week. I still have confidence that this team is going to be very good in 2023, high 80s, maybe 90 wins, chance to win the division. It just looks like it's probably going to be a different path than we hoped. Getting a star, it has to be known that getting a superstar player this offseason is now filed under the highly unlikely category from everything that we've read and whatever. It's not impossible, but it's highly unlikely. There are other avenues at success. Last year, they were a 90-win team that won 83 games, and they filled out that team by being really smart. They were able to get Bellinger on a one-year deal. He played like an MVP candidate. Suzuki got going. They filled, Talkman, Morel, things like that. They are going to be capable of winning games. I'm a little bit concerned that, the Cardinals seem to be very active. They got Sonny Gray, they improved, and the Reds have made the most acquisitions in the offseason. So your two big competition rivals in the NL Central have already gotten a lot better. And you've, so far as it stands right now, have gotten worse. So that's going to be a problem. But there is an avenue at success. It just might be a different path than we thought. And look, it might not be, and maybe you just have to wait, and maybe you have to be patient. But it's hard to be patient when we thought that things by this time we were going to be talking about at least two moves, and we haven't had any. But I think the bigger conversation and the more interesting conversation is Jed. And, if he doesn't land Ohtani and Soto's already a New York Yankee and Yamamoto will probably be a Met or a Yankee, where do you land on Jed? Because there's this two-front conversation. There's the one front of, hey, we should be right there with the Dodgers and Yankees in terms of spending. We need to go get a big fish. And even if you have to pay 150 cents, 200 cents on the dollar for a guy like Soto or a guy like Ohtani, go ahead and do it because we're the Chicago freaking Cubs and we need to do that. And I understand that side of it. But then there's the other side of it that's like, hey, we're being smart. We're being calculated. We're not putting ourselves in any type of position like we did with Jason Hayward. And we're making the right deals, right? Cody Bellinger was the right deal. But then I go and I say, first of all, I have full trust in Jed. But if you're going to make the right deals, then you can't go 40 or 68 on Tyone and have him not, really help you the whole first half of the season. You have to hit on every single one. Is there a happy medium there? Is Jed doing it the right way? And the last thing I'll say before I toss it to you, Matt, is that Jed has job security. I see these rumblings about, Jed's getting fired. Look,
what? From where?
A lot of people are like, hey, should Jed get fired if this goes wrong? He has full job security. He's going to be the GM at the or the president at bare minimum through 2025, and he does have the best interest, the long-term best interest of this organization. It's like I talked about, the Van Gundy rule. When Stan Van Gundy traded for Blake Griffin because he was told that he had to make the playoffs in the NBA or he's going to get fired. So he made a bad trade for Blake Griffin, gave him a huge contract. It helped him get to the playoffs for 1 year, and then they were crippled for the next 5. The Yankees with Cashman and Steinbrenner, they need to be really good next year. They're in a must-win situation. They need to be better. The Yankees don't go back-to-back years without failing or without making the postseason. And so they're going all in, and they're worrying about the rest later because, hey, even if you gave up 200 cents on the dollar and you lose your job as a president of baseball operations, who cares? You lose your job anyway. Jed is really looking at 2025, 2026, and beyond, and he's not going to make a deal that he thinks hampers the future that he's worked so hard to build. Now, the point is, and I swing it over to you, Matt, is when do you have to scrap that? When do you have to say, all right, this is the Chicago Cubs. I know I want to build a consistent winner, but when do I take that leap and maybe do something that's slightly bit irrational or uncomfortable that might not make sense? It's like you're playing a game of blackjack and you hit when you're not supposed to hit because you just have a gut feeling. When do you do that?
It's hard to say when the time would be right, but knowing that he's signed through 2025, I guess I would use the 2024 calendar year as a good barometer. Mm-hmm. So maybe they get off to a good start April, May, and June. They're firmly in contention for the NL Central, possibly more. Okay, it's time to strike in late July of 24. Maybe they make a lot of strides. The core continues to build. Prospects graduate. But we didn't really quite get to a point where we made a dent in the postseason or even had postseason plans. Okay, winter meetings 24. So I think winter meetings of 24 at the very latest. But I keep coming back to this question that he said last October. So I'm going to ask it like this. what is intelligent spending? Because I won't dog him for that. I think you have to spend intelligently, but to what end? Because even in markets that might be more light on stars and more light on real impact players, push is going to come to shove. And so I think in the next 12 months, that's what I'm really looking at. Now, part of that depends on how they do on the field then, that first 100 games or so. But I do think that once the 24 campaign starts, and I know, again, this is save for the moves he makes between now and March 28th, but I do think there will be a sense of urgency once that happens.
Yeah, and look, the point of what I just said was to just lay out both sides. I am a firm believer in Jed Hoyer, and I would not trade him for really anybody. I think he's done a really good job, and I think the Cubs are in a really good place as an organization, as Counsell said, a very healthy place. But I also understand the other side of it with the fans, that I'm tired of hearing about how good of a place we're in as an organization. I want to see it on the field.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but the fact is that they are in a healthy place.
Yeah.
I know that we don't like hearing about Rhys Hoskins and Tyler Glasnow.
Money, healthy place meaning, by the way, prospects, money,
many areas,
player development,
and those are the main threads of the sport.
It's the three pillars.
The fact that their system is so highly regarded, I don't think it's a stretch to say that. Obviously the Soto price was so high, and the Cubs equivalent, I guess we couldn't finalize on, but I think we had about what it would have been. But I think even if you make a deal for a star, if that was possible, even though you might be skittish to do it for a 1-year rental, it's very possible that their system in terms of look and ranking around baseball goes from 2 to 7. They would still be a top 10 system. That's how good their system is.
Right.
And look at the threshold for spending.
Right.
There isn't that much money tied up to the current roster, which again is projected at 79 victories. So you do have this gap here where you could spend in order to fill that win-loss gap. How do you add 11 wins? We've detailed it starting Thursday's show with 2 or 3 names. Are they the best names on the market? No, but they could be impactful additions as prospects continue to develop, they graduate, and trades and other additions are made over the next 12 months, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a really interesting time. I think we live in a world that's, you're always going to find problems. If they traded for Soto, people would have been upset. If they didn't trade for Soto, people will be upset. If they sign Ohtani, people will be upset. It was too much money. If they don't sign Ohtani, they're going to be upset. All I know is, as we transition and people, I would start getting your questions ready because we're going to start answering pretty soon. All I know is my tone on this Thursday evening at about 7:13 Central Time with 312 of our loyal listeners listening, and we don't even have a move to talk about. We have 312 live with us, Matthew, is that I am just down because this week was about as exciting as a trip to the DMV. It was just, I was looking for something great. And you ever been at the DMV? Just sit there for hours. D41, and you look at your card and you're, F26. 20 minutes later, D42. Then you pull out a bag of chips and they tell you can't eat in there. It's like going to prison, right, Matt? I mean, you're trying to change your address on your license. You feel like you committed a crime. That's what I felt like this week.
Well, yeah, you got a budget like a half day.
25 minutes later, Tony Kemp might be available. Oh, great. Breaking news. You get up from your seat. You think finally it's going to be you that gets called. You can get out of here. Alex Verdugo got traded. Right. Some middle reliever got dealt. I mean, it was just such a slow week, and I am
reading books,
looking outside,
Coming up next, we close out on the audio-only side. Stay tuned. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers Stay Hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. Right now, the Chicago Winter Tenants are in action. You got the Bears, the Bulls, and the Blackhawks. And all of them right now, not terribly exciting. But you can still get in on the action. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn. FanDuel, the official partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. All right, so last 4 to 5 minutes here, Sam, on the audio side. Do you have a range or a prerequisite for Hoyer to make the big move?
I don't know what you're asking me.
Well, you asked me when he's going to make the big move. When do you think?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
I think.
Well, I guess it's not a reach to say that we thought it would be this week.
Yeah, I just think that Jed really sticks to market value. And when he feels like a player has exceeded market value and he's not getting back a good return, he doesn't do that. And that's his job. And I think fans are just like, dude, some people are just like, just go for it. You know what I mean? And at some point throughout his tenure, he's just going to have to go for it. I mean, look how he did it.
Yeah.
And look, most of the time he's gotten the last laugh. With Dansby, he got the last laugh. That Bogarts contract's one of the worst in baseball. They just had to trade Juan Soto because of it.
Crazy.
You know, with not extending Javi, not extending Rizzo, not extending Bryant, he got the last laugh. Not extending Contreras, he got the last laugh. So he has done his job pretty well here, but at some point, you got to say yes to somebody. You know, the Bellinger deal was probably the best deal the entire offseason last year, but 1 year, $17 million.
Yeah.
But those low-risk deals and low-risk moves, you know, they only get you so far. At some point, you got to just go for it. And you can make the argument that he went for it with Dansby Swanson. That wasn't a small deal, $177 million. And so, you know, I would say that. I think real quick, we should report and touch on, if you didn't know, that former Cub third baseman, if you're a listener to the show, you know, not one of my favorites, 3-year, $45 million deal for Jeimer Candelario with the Reds. I say good riddance and good luck to you. I would not pay him for that. Only concern would be now the Reds are obviously going to be in the trade market because they have a surplus of infielders.
Well, like you said, they've been the most active team. You know, pitching depth, pitching additions, perhaps impactful, and now Candelario, albeit at a higher rate, 3 for 45, was actually more than most of the outlets had him projected at. The Brewers, obviously, with the change in the manager chair, we'll see what they do with Corbin Burns. Cardinals have been making those pitching additions, and the Pirates are in the division as well. Although they have some young talent, but certainly not any threat to really be aware of. So we'll see what happens on the Glasnow front. I do think that getting back to the hypothetical next week, we will be doing some of that if we need to, hopefully talking about actual moves. And because I do see, especially if Glasnow goes somewhere else, I think the Cubs really need to be proactive, and maybe they are already with Cleveland, because you have at least one pitcher there in Shane Bieber that would be a good fit, and then you could really go blockbuster style and maybe fit that bill of the big move if you include Clase, if you include Naylor, if you include somebody else. So that's something that I'm zooming in on a little bit. For those with us live right now, we are sticking around on YouTube for a while. So in terms of our regular episode, audio only. Thank you so much for checking out this edition of Locked On Cubs. You give us 20 to 30 minutes, and we'll give you all things Cubs, the laugh or two along the way. Be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube and smash the like button for the algorithm. Shout out to the audio peeps on Apple, Spotify, and more. He's Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. This is Locked On Cubs.
There is momentum happening here.
All right.
We're still live here on YouTube, 330 plus with us, and we turn over the show to you. This is going to be a hangout here, and your comments and questions. We're going to do our best as we are the producers of this very program as well. So appreciate everybody being here. Shout out to the everydayers, and we're going to start looking through this.
I got a
Any
couple
starting points?
Yeah, I got a couple here. Dominic, team will be worse than last year. Where are the runs coming from? Well, that would be in the offseason. The offseason is still young, so they have a lot of room to improve. If they are going into 2024 as is right now, we got a big problem. It just hasn't happened yet.
Right.
Eye of Ghost, who's been really commenting a lot throughout this episode.
Who's that?
Candelario, perfect fit for this team.
Never seen that person.
Hard disagree. Don't think he's that good. Think he overperformed last year, and we saw what he really is. And he's not a good fit at 3 years, 45. Real quick, Matt, you take this one.
Have the Cubs lost ground to the rest of the NL Central? Well, just in terms of the moves on paper, I wouldn't say that the Cubs have lost ground. Obviously, Bellinger and Stroman and Candelario are the losses right now. But I would just say that the Cardinals and Reds have gained steam. I don't want to play the scoreboard too much because the Cubs have made literally 0 moves.
Right.
But I will say that the Reds and Cardinals have gained ground. So whether the Cubs have lost it, I think that's a reach.
All right. I got one here from Craig. Is Sam growing a beard to prove to Matt how good does a beard looks? Well, I've had this
it for a while.
I've had this same facial hair, Craig, for a good long while. So
it doesn't increase or decrease.
It just kind of stays the same. Go Cubs, huh?
So Sam, what do you think? Official or unofficial position on Matt Chapman?
Matt Chapman?
Yeah.
It depends the cost. I don't, it's the same thing with Candelario. If we're going to make a big move at third, I want a bat that delivers, that I could count on. If you're going to give a lot of money, this guy hit 240 last year. He's one of the best defensive third basemen in baseball. You would have the best infield in baseball. You'd have one of the greatest.
By a mile.
No, you'd have one of the greatest defensive infields of all time.
Right.
Matt Chapman, Dansby Swanson, Nico Horner, in all seriousness. But is there enough thump in that bat? I don't know. I wouldn't, at this point, I wouldn't say no to it, especially if Morel could learn first or you get Hoskins, one of those two. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say I hate it because at least he can hit, at least he gives you some thump. Because right now, this team offensively is missing thump. That's why I want to add Rhys Hoskins. Right. He gives you a little bit of thump. Everybody's around 20, 25 home runs. Chapman, you had another guy. Right now, as it currently stands, if you do the Mastro Magical thing over there, you really need some thump. You really need some thump.
Big time. Okay, I like that. Yeah, I for whatever reason, well, not for whatever reason, you just laid it out. Because it was 2023 season, I do think that I would like to look at the dollar signs there. If they chose to bring him in. But he serves a lot of areas immediately that would be an upgrade.
I got one right here, Matt, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
It's a good question here. Can Belly sustain his resurgence that he had with the Cubs? And the answer is, I don't know. It's unlikely.
That's a great question.
However, it's unlikely. I'm willing to gamble at about 170, 180. But the price that he's getting, you can't. I just don't think in all conscience to your organization you could give him $250 million. And if there's somebody out there that's going to, like the Giants or Blue Jays, let them make that mistake. I just don't. I don't think Cody Bellinger thinks he's worth that amount of money. He came in here. He made a great change to his approach. He became
Right.
the best 2-strike hitter in baseball. And so because of that, his batted ball data is down. And when you look at his Savant page with all the batted ball data and analytics, it says he got a little bit lucky, but a lot of that was approach. A lot of that was going the other way and making a lot of contact. But it's a really hard thing to replicate. Even towards the end of the year, he started to struggle a little bit. And I just don't feel very confident that he's going to be a 300 hitter next year. And with what he's asking for, I don't feel comfortable giving him that check. If it's less than 200, if we're talking like a Brandon Nimmo thing, by all means.
What are your thoughts on his position? Because the market for first baseman is traditionally less of a cost than center field.
Yeah.
You have good recent, barometers in Olsen and Freeman's deals, which makes Bellinger's number a little bit laughable.
Yep.
Because those starts with ones. They never even got over 200 M's. But I do think, Aaron, people are looking at Bellinger as a first baseman. I think his versatility and his ability to play two important positions really well, I think that's being looked at.
Yeah, but can I add something?
Yeah.
It's not about what we look at him as or the Cubs. It's about what he looks at himself as, and that's what he's asking for money-wise. He's not asking for first base money. He's asking for, hey, I'm the best center fielder in the game, and that's what type of money he's asking for, right? And somebody's going to give him that money. I think a lot of people and all fans, you always say, hey, why don't the Cubs do that? You don't realize there's other teams.
Yeah.
Like there's other teams.
Especially the Giants and Blue Jays.
Like if somebody gives him 12 for 250 or 11 for 250, you have to just say thanks for the memories, Cody.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? We've come to terms with that since October. We've been saying that.
Or you could make the case even before the deadline.
From Gary, am I the only one concerned Council spelled wrong, brought exactly 0 staff members with him, just assuming that it was all him in Milwaukee and not an organizational philosophy and great people around him. So there's so many things wrong with these questions, Gary. Not just the spelling, but first of all,
Hey, Gary, thanks for the comment. Jeez, man.
It was an organizational philosophy. That's why the Brewers have stuck out for so long.
I spell Council the same way, Gary.
And Pat Murphy got the job. So when a current coach gets the job, that now lessens the likelihood that coaches were going to travel down south to Chicago. I know the Athletic dropped the Brewers pitching coach name a couple times, but Tommy Hotovy is very well regarded. And once Murphy got that job, I think the Brewers coaches to the Cubs was almost a non-starter.
Short answer, Gary. Yes, you are the only one. Next.
Yeah, okay, that's true. Wow, we just kind of piled up on him.
No,
which is more enticing, Glasnow and Paredes or Bieber and Naylor? Great question.
Great question, Vivek. I would probably say Bieber and Naylor just because I think Josh Naylor is the exact type of hitter this team needs. He's got great bat-to-ball skills with power. He's an RBI machine. He's the type of guy you could just put in the middle of the lineup, even though he isn't a star per se. He's a lineup anchor. You put him 3 or 4 and you surround him with a Seiya. You surround him with a Happ and a Dansby and a Horner. It really lengthens the lineup where I think Paredes, even though he's a big power guy, it's more of a matchup kind of thing and a kind of a fluky thing where I really like Josh Naylor as a hitter. Had him on my fantasy team last year. I like watching him play. He's a 100 RBI guy. And, I think that's an undervalued statistic now because of all the analytic world that we live in. And I just think RBIs matter and the Cubs don't really drive in a ton of runs.
Yeah. And did Paredes have a Cubs connection at one point?
Yeah, I think he came up with this ball club.
Okay. All right, this is from Brody. What's up, boys? I was wondering if you guys think the Reds will beat out the Cubs in trade offers with the Rays. So, yeah, I think Glasnow is really that main target. I think Paredes is more or less a pipe dream. Arozarena, Diaz, Margot. Again, that just all increases costs with them with a trade partner that is so good at trading. And so I at this point, Brody, I don't see the Reds beating out the Cubs for Glasnow, but I could see another team beating the Cubs out for Glasnow.
Like the Dodgers.
I mean, as long as it keeps going, why? In my defense, you're giving me time to think these thoughts. Of course, they could get beat for Glasnow. Now the Reds, I would say no, but I think it's possible another team does. I do. We had a question from Michael about Emmanuel Clase and that he wanted to see some surprise pickups. I'm still looking at the Padres, Michael. If there's a surprise pickup, I think it might come from out west. We'll see. This is a scary question for midnight, Sam. If the Cubs don't get Ohtani, who is the biggest name?
Not a scary
we're
question.
Likely to get.
Probably not going to get him.
It's scary in that the result you're going to say.
Yeah.
Rhys Hoskins.
Yeah, in free agency.
In terms of offense.
Yeah, probably Hoskins.
Right, unless Bellinger's price comes down. But even then, they're similar. Similar stories, those two guys.
Can I put this one up?
Just put them up.
Cubs are full of 240 hitters. The third baseman you mentioned hits the 240, isn't bad in the MLB. That's a problem, Rand Lit. They have a lot of 240 hitters, so they need better ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
That's, Hap hit 248 last year. It's inexcusable.
Here's Brent.
What his on base. I don't care what his on base is.
I was going to make another Hap comment, but I don't want to get, I don't want to walk on eggshells.
Yeah.
Here's Brent with a dose of reality. Cubs need first base, third base, 2 starters, a DH, and 1 more outfielder.
Hey, Brent. I know. And I need to gain about 10, 15 pounds of muscle. Who's going to do it first?
Here's Magnetics. What strategic
Great
diet
question.
sodas do you think the Cubs can pick up?
Hey, Magnetics.
Now, there's a listener right there.
Gatorade Zero right here. Great question, Magnetics. And this is right up my alley. I'd say diet soda offensively. Hoskins, I think, qualifies, although he might be a little bit above that.
I think so.
A 1-year filler, I like. I really do like a Harrison Bader or Kevin Kiermaier, maybe just a stopgap in center if you don't get Cody Bellinger. Right. I also think Justin Turner's a fit, even though he doesn't play much third anymore. Even though he doesn't play much third anymore, if you don't get Rhys Hoskins, I think Urshela is another name that comes to mind. Pitching wise, I don't really think so. And if you want to say Yamamoto is the great prize, and then Imanaga would be the diet soda, but I think that's cruel. I think he's above the diet soda.
He is.
So I don't think there. And then, some relievers, but there's going to be a lot of diet soda. So get ready, get your Sprite ready, some Sierra Mist, whatever diet drink goes down the smoothest, get ready for it, Magnetics, because there's going to be a lot of fillers coming in. Hopefully we have a little bit better luck than Mancini and Hosmer.
Looking back on that, Sam, that was really awful. And Barnhart.
We don't have to look back at it. I was saying it every day.
And Barnhart.
Hey, Soler.
All these guys hits all the time.
Here's someone's yelling at me here. Wait, let's get to that. Yeah, Soler, go to Jim first, then we'll go to me.
All right, Jim says, Jim and every day. Shout out, Jim. I appreciate your support, big dog. He says, how about Soler? I am all for this reunion. If they trade Christopher Morel for a controllable impact piece, then all the more so. You could get Soler for a year or two at a good price point. But shoot, I think that this might be trending towards Craig Counsell being a genuine fan of Christopher Morel, who may or may not have been limited by David Ross. Okay, can I start saying that, lighting that fire?
I don't know about that.
So Soler could be DH, Morel's at third.
I agree. I don't agree with Ross limiting Morel. I'm not going to post this comment because it has a curse in it, but I'm going to read it.
Yeah, this is a family program. Go ahead.
This is somebody that's angry at me, I think. Sam, you know as well as us fans, well, first of all, I am a fan, James, that they lied to us again. They are one of the cheapest big market clubs in baseball. That is not true. The spill that's yours saying is a bunch of, I'm going to say, baloney. Eduardo Rodriguez, I think he means Rodriguez, signed for $20 million. Well, he signed for 4 years, $80 million. And yeah, I think that I understand your frustration, James, but I don't think they lied to us. They never said that they were going to. I think they've made a legitimate effort to go get Shohei Ohtani, and they might come up short. They need to get somebody. Eduardo Rodriguez, 4 years, 80 is a fine deal. I would have been fine if they signed it. But there's still other pitchers out there. Maybe they get a better one, like a Montgomery. Let's do that. Let's wait on it.
Where's he been?
I haven't heard I've heard about as much Montgomery buzz as I've heard about, the Bears making the postseason. So
could the Cubs be the stealth team on Montgomery?
Yeah,
I think so. I know you don't like hypotheticals, dude, but
yeah, no, please.
But we got a lot of them, including from Silval. Don't want to mispronounce your name, player, but he says, how about a guy like Brent Rooker from the A's? That would be a great pickup.
I'm not familiar.
He was an all-star last year. Obviously, the A's, the worst team in the land. One of the worst teams in the land, but Brent Rooker would be a guy that would just come in and hit. He's a controllable for many years. Interesting to see what kind of price that would be, but I think he's a great target. Now, he's right-handed. How right-handed can a team get?
Wait, you're saying he's a great target?
Well, he could. Did I say great?
Yeah, I don't like.
Well,
how would
sometimes I have
28 years old, had an 817 OPS, first full year last year, 246. He did it 30 home runs. Interesting. Okay. Position wise, yeah, I just haven't heard anything about this young man. Is he a free agent? Is he traded?
No, he's under a lot of team control.
Oh, they're not going to do that. They're not. The A's, they have no money. They need to keep those guys under team control.
All right, Chapman. This is from Michael, who interacts with us before. Chapman, Hoskins, Glasnow, another starting pitcher.
Michael,
2 mid-relievers, good enough.
Michael, that's a good enough. That would be probably about maxing out at this point.
That would get you close to 90 dubs.
No. If you're running out that team, Glasnow plus another pitcher plus Hoskins plus Chapman plus the relievers. I don't think counting the relievers is necessary.
Right, you're gonna
get your relievers, but that's
there's only 50 of them on the market.
And look, it's just funny because I'm looking at the comments. People are like, how are you going to do better than that if you don't get Ohtani or Yamamoto?
I think that's the plan.
Yeah, and I don't think they're going to get every one of these guys. There's going to be competition.
Right.
Some team out there is going to give Matt Chapman 3 digits.
3 digits? What do you mean?
You
mean 9 figures?
Yeah, like a 3-digit million number.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what I mean.
I would like to see Julian. It's Julian.
Yes, this is.
JD Martinez is one of my targets.
Yeah, he is being overlooked.
Yeah. He's one of my targets.
How many targets do you have? What are you, shooting a bow and arrow?
Hey, our first everydayer, Bryce from Iowa. Any chance we could trade half?
You got to ask him, Bryce. He's got a full no trade.
Right. So
ask him.
Close to 0. Here, this from the Cubs GM. Cubs are starving for left-handed pop. Who are the best options? That's Carter Hawkins.
Well, thanks for joining the show, Carter. And I apologize for your quiet start to the offseason. I saw you comment earlier that we also need some swing and miss guys in the pen. I agree with both you, and you make a lot more money than I do. Best left-handed pop options?
Brandon Belt.
Yeah, Brandon Belt.
Daniel Vogelbach, Mike Ford.
What's that?
Austin Meadows.
What's that large first baseman on the Brewers? Rowdy Tellez. Yeah, no, and none of those are appealing to me. Next. Let's just keep it going. Hey, let's talk about Jung Ho Lee. That's a good question by Craig. I really haven't heard much about him. I just think the Jung Ho...
I've heard... I haven't heard much, but what I have heard is good.
It is, but like if you sign him, how do you feel about PCA then? Because they're basically the same guy.
Right. He's got in the KBO, which is really well known as a AAA league. He hit like 7 home runs.
Right.
So I'm not sure what that's all about.
Yeah, no. And here's Donnie saying Hap can DH, but Donnie, in some weird world, the guy's a back-to-back Gold Glove Award winner. He ain't DH.
Right.
It's 405 people live, and we don't even have a move to report. If we had a move to report, we'd be at 800 people.
And does he want a DH? I know there was some rumblings, about his batting position, and Ross may or may not have complied with his what he wanted. So we'll see in terms of his position.
I got one here. Matt and Sam, do you think Jed, Carter, and Daddy Council are just toying with our emotions at this point and knowing Jed is about to unleash the beast with good news?
I don't think one relates to the other.
I don't think Jed cares about our emotions.
No, I don't think he's keeping things close to the vest because he's messing with us.
No, that would be
this isn't high school.
That'd be something he'd be doing if he were, the president of baseball operations for a farm league team, in the rec league.
Sam, can you explain your position on Javier Baez after the 2018 season? Because this comes from Metal Keith. Cubs are overvaluing Morel. He's a poor man's Javier Baez.
Yeah, I feel like I'm saying a lot of unpopular things tonight, so I'll just continue that theme. Yes, Metal Keith, I do feel that way. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Right.
After the 2018 season, when Javier Baez finished second in the MVP voting to rival and cheater Christian Yelich,
Okay.
I was really well known publicly, Matt. We would hang out at some places, and I thought the Cubs should sell high on Javi. I just didn't think his form of success was sustainable through the years of his prime. Free swingers, unless you are just an absolute unicorn like Vladimir Guerrero Sr., swingers usually just don't last. And then you take into the sense that Javier Baez was so reliant on his athletic ability, that doesn't age that well, because as you get older, unless you're, like a LeBron James, most people get slower. And that has happened to Javier Baez as he's packed some pounds on. You just don't, no, he's not to say he looks like a third baseman. He's just a bigger guy.
A couple weight references now. You mentioned Tellez and now Baez.
I'm just saying he's not as quick and not as athletic. And it was a reason why I wanted to trade him at his peak, and they couldn't do it. And I just think with Morel, he's a poor man's Javier Baez, because Javi was a phenomenal defensive shortstop, and Christopher Morel, can't play a defensive position, and he has the same whiff problem. So that's me. But, maybe he turns around and has a 35, 40 homer year and plays every day. I was just saying athletically, as he aged, he's gotten, he's a third baseman now. He's not a shortstop. He can't move the same way.
Right. This from Alex. Rumor has it Jed is going to Japan to talk to Yamamoto. Nope, that actually already happened. That happened in September or October, Alex. Hoyer did see him pitch in person, and Yamamoto will be stateside on Monday, and his first meeting is with the New York Yankees, who might be pivoting to the Yankees of old. We appreciate everybody that's here. 400 plus with us here right now. Thank you so much for joining us. We are going to stay up until the 1 hour mark, so about 15 more minutes.
Think we'll ever sign a 300 hitter? Yeah, trade for Naylor. He's a 300 hitter.
Wow. Yeah, you wonder with the Carter Hawkins connection if that makes the Guardians a more convenient trade partner or not.
Kevin says Imanaga should be the target. I wonder how many innings we've all watched to him. But it is the one that feels like but seriously, it feels like a Jed type contract. It's like a Seiya Suzuki deal. 5 for 100. You get that. You pay middle ground. You hope he produces. He's got the ceiling maybe of being a top 2 guy in rotation, a pretty high floor. Maybe that's the direction they go. I'd be fine with that.
Of course. I mean, 100%. Let's go to Evil Wax. What about going after Jordan Hicks out of the bullpen?
Yeah, he's been connected to the Astros. I don't think, I would. I mean, he's got tremendous stuff. He's a high upside target, but I just don't think that's, I
Yeah, I
haven't
don't
heard
think that passes.
he's too
test
pricey. Too
for the
pricey.
Cubs.
We don't spend any. Everybody's too pricey for us.
No, stop that.
So
Here's Brian looking forward to seeing a full season of PCA. Well, Brian, as of right now, I don't think PCA is your opening day center fielder.
no, probably not.
So you're not going to see a full season of him until 2025. But I really hope that he gets off to a good start in Des Moines. Bryce goes to see him, all our other friends in the Hawkeye State. And at some point in 24, he's ready. And so that's why I think the Bader-Talkman combo for March 28th, that's the way I think the Cubs should go. Sans Bellinger move. And then PCA is ready to graduate at some point, soon after that.
Yeah. Sam loves Talkman. Yeah, I love him with the way he was playing. I would really love it if he was our fourth outfielder. I would love it,
of course,
if he was our fourth outfielder, not an opening day star. I think Mike Talkman coming off the bench late in the game against a good righty reliever to get on base is beautiful. Right. But I think we should have an upgrade there on opening day. But it's just been a rough situation.
Do you think Council will go back to a traditional bullpen approach, lockdown closer in the ninth, and working backwards to set up the closer?
Well, how would that be different than what we were doing?
Yeah, I don't really see a difference other than Council maybe was more aggressive with his pen over the years, and he had better players.
Yeah, I think Council will be a better bullpen manager than Ross, and maybe he identifies that
I don't
guys
think he'll be close.
Yeah, guys earlier, but I think Ross, once he figured out it was Alzolay, it was pretty standard Merriweather, Leiter, Alzolay. Just Merriweather and Leiter was depending on if it was righties or lefties.
Who's the opening day third baseman?
I don't know, but not Patrick Wisdom, Carlos.
Okay.
Unless we're facing a soft tossing lefty, and it's one of those tricky questions in like 5 years when Matt's doing trivia to me, and I got to remember that even though he didn't play much, like Brent Lillibridge or Jeff Baker or somebody, he started. But it's not really about the opening day.
Emilio Bonifacio?
It's Patrick Wisdom, an everyday third baseman. No, he has too many holes in his swing.
Shout out to Owen Casey from Aaron. Yeah, he's a top 100 prospect now, according to MLB Pipeline.
Matthew.
Yes.
What about sorry, Matthew Harper. What about Jesus Luzardo from the Marlins or some of their pitchers? Rumors are, just again, that's gonna under club control. That's gonna cost a fortune.
How many rumors are there?
Yeah, he is. I mean, if you added Jesus Luzardo this offseason, you'd be cooking with real gas. But I think that could cost you everybody. I mean, that guy's a stud.
Right. Let's keep track of the rumors from this point. Let's tally.
We throw these names around like the Cubs could just turn around and get these guys. I mean, this guy is a 20-something-year-old that's got as good a stuff as anybody in the business.
Right. I see some folks bringing up Alexander Canario as a platoon options in center with Talkman to open the season. I'll tell you what, I sure would have liked to have seen him get more of a run in September. Here and there. Obviously, they were contending, but I think he could have a role on the 24 roster. That remains to be seen. Here's
a good question from Antonio.
Sure.
Is there anyone you'd be disappointed in bringing in? I think he means. Yeah, I would be disappointed if the Cubs spent $200+ million on Cody Bellinger, Antonio. I would not be excited about that. That feels like just doing something to do something. I just don't think that that's right. No. And I would say that. And I would say any pitcher, I would also be disappointed if we brought back Stroman. Like anybody.
Well, he's not connected to anybody.
No, I know, but I'm just saying. Cubs. I'm saying anybody that's like a real soft tosser that just doesn't get a lot of whiffs at this point. I would say from the pitching realm, I would say that. Let's do a few more, Matt. Then I think it's time for me to, enjoy my dinner.
How about Michael Waka as an option or Seth Lugo? Yeah, I would say, of course.
Yeah, I would
Of
say
course.
well, let's not go of course. I would say yes if they're the second best pitcher we get. So if
Okay.
it's after trading for a Glass now or after for a Bieber, then yes, good diet soda. Has some carbonation, maybe even a little regular in there. But if Michael Wacha's the headliner at 32 years of age, no. He had an unbelievable season last year, so I just think he's probably going to get overpaid anyway. 14-4 with a 3.22.
Yeah, but you haven't heard from him at all.
Well, you haven't heard
that
from him.
Second or third tier is just not available right now.
And is Blake Snell just retiring? Because I haven't heard.
Right. Well, besides the Mariners, you haven't heard.
I haven't heard. This is the reigning and defending National League Cy Young Award winner, and he's connected to as many major league teams as me. No, and I agree. Luis Robert Ortiz, JJ, I'm done trading with the Sox. I don't want to trade with them. Don't bail them out.
You don't want to look at them.
There's three franchises right now that are the absolute bottom feeders of the major leagues. It's the Colorado Rockies. They're number one. What they're doing over there, the way they handled Arenado, Brian, it's unforgivable. The Oakland A's, because they have as much money as you and I put together. And of course, 35th in Shields, the Chicago White Sox, with an owner that neglects the team and also is in charge of one of the worst franchises in professional basketball. I don't want to trade with the Sox. Don't give them any assets. I don't want any of their players. They can have them.
And I do think they might move soon. By 25 or 26.
I don't think that, but I'd welcome it. Good riddance.
Someone did ask about Corbin Burns. I would overpay for him, but I know I'm on an island there.
I don't think you're on an island. If you are, I'd like to join you with some seafood because I would like to overpay for Corbin Burns. I'd like to overpay for anyone. I'd like to get somebody.
With the way the offseason is going, we should go to an island or something.
No, we should do a show live and just see how long we can go without food or drink. Just something that's entertaining.
Locked on Cubs, Survivor.
It's more entertaining.
Survivor edition.
It's more entertaining about talking about how we might be interested in Brandon Bell.
I saw a number for Brandon Bell. It was like 10, 11 M's. I don't know
right
about
up
all
Jed's
that.
alley.
I don't know at all about that.
Luis Severino already signed a deal, Alex. I think he signed with the Mets. It's off the table.
He did. Someone also brought up Wade Miley. He went back to the Brewers.
No, and that's the type of guy, the question earlier, would I be disappointed in? No more guys that don't get any strikeouts. You know what I mean?
Somebody that doesn't know how a keyboard works keeps entering in the same question about Ohtani's dog. That's fun.
Let's do a couple more here.
Yeah, no, we're going to just be on for about 5 more minutes, folks.
Jim, you're one of my favorites. Don't joke with me. He said, give me Tony Kemp. I'd rather go to the dentist.
I don't know if I would like to see the Cubs sign Hader Luke. I don't know if it's about like or dislike, but he makes the Cubs better.
Yeah, I just am not a huge fan of giving 3-digit numbers to relievers because
that's probably what he's going to give.
They're so unpredictable. Right. And that goes to the Class A thing. Like if Class A is a part of a bigger trade, fine. But just giving up financial or prospect major assets before a season starts for a reliever, I don't like. I much like it better in the middle of the season.
Right. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Remember, this is a YouTube exclusive part of the show. Please smash the like button on the way out. And
Bryce Bodie.
What about him?
He said Tony Kemp or David Bodie. Bodie.
Oh boy.
Tony Kemp had like a 607 OPS last year.
Right. I saw a comment on Bob Nightingale. Actually, it was from Carter Hawkins.
Yeah, Bob Knight.
Yeah, that was an interesting detour this week, but I'm over it already.
No, I'm over it, but it's the only detour. It was
Right.
it wasn't a detour, it was the only street. That was the only way to go.
How about Jan Gomes in 24, Sam? We talked a little bit about him for
Yeah, we
Thursday's
talked about
show.
this. We talked about this. It's unlikely that he produces at that level again.
Right. David says Bodie's a solid player.
Right.
We all have our own interpretations. All right, folks, so we're going to wrap it up here.
Jim, hang on. Jim?
Man, Jim's good.
Let me tell you something, Jim. Anybody could have played on my softball team. This season was an absolute unmitigated disaster. First of all, every other game was rained out. When we played poorly. We ended the season early. We got like a $26 refund. I went to Chipotle. I got like a bowl and chips and guac with it.
It's an expensive order.
Yeah, it's it is what it is. Some person said they're nauseous from the show. Pepto-Bismol, Tums, whatever you need.
Go for a walk or something.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for being here for the exclusive part of the show. If you are here, I did want to just drop this.
Uh-oh.
Only one team has not leaked anything on Shohei Ohtani, who is expected to announce his decision this weekend. Okay, and I understand you might think it's deception.
Yep.
And maybe it requires some secrecy. But I have to say, all secrecy is not meant to deceive. So if you made it this far in the show, I do think Ohtani makes his decision this weekend. And I think it might be to the team that hasn't leaked anything yet.
Can you repeat that whole thing? It sounded like almost like the title of a poetry book. All secrecy is what?
While all deception requires secrecy, all secrecy is not meant to deceive.
And folks, I do a show with Edgar Allan Poe.
And that's going to do it.
Okay. If Ohtani comes to the Cubs this weekend, you'll be having a beautiful steak on me, Matthew.
You heard it here first. Till next time, everybody. See ya.